Hello, and I hope you can hear me well. I have set up a microphone, but it didn't seem to work. So hopefully you can hear me through my headphones. So if you join me, then please let me know if you can hear me. My name's Tara, and I'm a facilitator. And I've been working with Mama Cacao, IxCacao, for a number of years now, and sharing ceremonies with her, practices. Great, thanks, Joe. Nice to see you here. And some immersions as well, dietas, from beginner level into practitioner level as well. And I've been quiet for quite some time, so some of you that know me have not heard much for a while because I've been here in Denmark and with my teacher. And so there's been a lot of transformation here and movement. But one of the constants has always been the plants and the connection with the plants and the connection with nature. And that's ever growing because it's an ongoing lifetime, probably many lifetimes of journeying. And it just felt like a rich time to come and speak about alchemy and the love alchemy in particular. And I feel that IxCacao has a lot to share with us in that as well. And just to really sit and tune in here together. So we'll share a little meditation just to tune in. And we'll also have some time for Q&A. Now, I can find it quite distracting with the chat sometimes when I'm just letting things come through. So what I'll probably do in a few minutes is just go through the meditation, drop us in together, and then we'll see what comes in regards to really exploring what is the alchemy of love and how can we really foster this within ourselves and around us in this time. And then I'll have a wee look later on in the chat at any questions that you may have. So if you have a question, of course, just pop it in and I'll take a wee look later on. And also, if you have anything to share as well of your experience with Cacao and how she's helped you to really grow into more love. And when I say that word love, I'd really love to reclaim it. It's very misunderstood often. It's a word that's maybe used a lot without true understanding of what it really means. And for me, love is a state of being. It's something that's very much innate within us. And yet there has been a lot of human conditioning attached to it. And so it's really about lifting the veil on that, letting the light come in and seeing where that can actually really take us when we tune into the true essence of it, as well as the true essence of ourselves. And I do feel that the plants, IxCacao being one in particular, there's many other plants that connect us to love and to the heart in particular. They are, let's say, bridges, gateways to remember. And that's why I feel like we're so blessed to have plants around us. They came here on this planet long before us. They'll be here long after as well. And indeed, we are very much part of nature, and we all have an innate ability to come into communion, come into true communication with plants and with nature, because they are within us. And so what they are shining in is to come into that love within us, that true essence within us, the life within us, and the consciousness that is within us, that is within everything. So let's just begin with a short meditation, just sitting wherever you are, bringing yourself into a comfortable position, and just softening in and closing your eyes, feeling into your seat, and just feeling into your spine as it aligned from the roots to the crown. You drop in your chin ever so slightly so that your crown meets the sky. And just come into awareness of any tension that you may be holding in the body. And taking a few breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth. Just allowing yourself these few moments to really gather yourself in. It's leaving everything as it is. Coming right here into your heart. And allow a sense of warmth, of receptivity come in. Softening from the heart. And that warmth and that softening radiating into the shoulders. Down the arms and into the hands. These hands are an extension of the heart. And letting this radiate into the belly. And this receptivity, allowing the love of your heart to permeate into every cell, every part of your being. Including the belly and the pelvis, the legs into the feet and into the earth. And as you feel your roots into the earth, and the love that pours into you also pours into her. And the love that nurtures you nurtures her. And feel that love and support from the earth through your feet. And feel the connection from the root into the crown. Just as if your body is a trunk of a tree. Your head is a branches. Connecting to consciousness. Connecting into universal love pouring in through the crown. Into your heart like a chalice. Filling your cup with every breath. And with every out breath, letting go any barriers you may be holding to love. And lovingly let those go as well. There's nothing wrong here. With each breath, it's an invitation into more love. As much as you're able to fill that cup in this moment. And this love that includes all of you. Every part of you. All of the grief. All of the joy. All of everything in between. Is loved. And just in the last few moments, if you feel you can join, then please do. Otherwise, you can just listen and hear the frequency of the sounds and feel how that opens the heart. And let yourself be bathed. And let this love radiate through every part of your being and be a benefit not only to yourself, but for all beings. And if it feels good for you, you can bring your hands to your heart and bowing your head. Thank you, thank you, thank you. One of the ways of alchemy is sharing in sound, sharing in poetry. So I thought I would share a poem. I felt it spoke to these times. Choose love. Choose love over fear. Choose love over disconnect. The vibration that dissolves disconnection, embracing discord, fear, panic, incoherence, lovingly embracing it all, loving the earth mind back home to the heart, a field of protection from the valley of the soul, the antidote to the stories and fear of the other. I can love that which appears within myself and another. I choose a new path in the name of love. The old patterns have nowhere to hide but be transformed. The soil is now turning and the soul seeds are burning, awakening from the dark night of the ego into the dawn of the new age. Come together in love and community. Unity becomes the elixir for immunity. Call in the wisdom of the ancestors, elders, and ancient ones, weaving a new way with the support of our guides and ascended ones. We were made for these times, and we can choose love. Our mettle is being tested, faith, courage, and trust in love. Rest well in self-connection, surrendering to love. Living in the unknown, finding the new path, and that path is love. Mm. So yes, we're very much in that time where there's a real fork in the road, shall we say, for humanity. And there's many, many traditions that speak of this time and speak of the time where we come together once again and we come back into deeper union with nature and with each other. And there's much to say and so very little to say. And so any questions that you may have, please bring them here. What I have learnt along the way, and I'm sure you have in your own ways too, is that love is the most powerful force on this planet, and the most powerful force in the universe. And they speak of universal love as a love that goes beyond the personal, it goes beyond anything that, on a human level, like romantic love or friendships or family. It goes far, far deeper and far beyond that, where it embraces all of humanity, embraces all of our humanity. And so when I'm speaking of this, I'm not speaking of it from a etherical, distant thing. It's actually something that needs to really come into embodiment. And first and foremost comes into embracing ourselves and embracing as we are fully, all the shadow parts as well as all the parts that we like and enjoy about ourselves. And that it's such a transformational force in the face of absolutely anything. It's not something that's woo woo or soft, that can be soft, but it's also extremely powerful, extremely strong as well. It can be extremely fierce. And the word compassion is compassion. There's a fire behind it. And sometimes that does mean being very forthright and having to cut something out of your life or someone out of your life in the name of love, to stand for what it is that you love rather than what it is you're against. And in these times where just seemingly out there, people are being pitted against each other, countries, governments, all of that, and people here on the ground, is that it takes so much more strength to always meet that with love. And that doesn't mean that it's okay to take on somebody else's business, somebody else's reactions, to put it in a nice way. I don't like to use certain words because there's a lot of words banded around, and I don't have too much time to go into it all just now, but there's a lot of words that are banded around that are very disempowering and don't allow for people to take full responsibility for themselves and for their parts and what's arising in them, and then meeting that with love. And of course, we cannot meet another in that with love unless we've met that within ourselves. And that's an ongoing cultivation through life of meeting all those parts of ourselves that do come into reaction and that do operate out of pain or human conditioning, past hurts that we've had. And it's never ending. But it's also extremely liberating to open up into that further expansion within ourselves and in life itself, also of letting that breathe, letting that radiate, letting that permeate into ourselves and into our lives. And where some of us may not have necessarily found that frequency met on a human level, that's where many people can find it much easier to connect with nature, to connect with plants, and begin that journey of rediscovery, self-discovery alongside the plants. Like I said, the plants can be seen as our ancestors actually, because they were here before the animal kingdom. And they each carry their own resonance, their own frequency that helps to open that up within us. And so rose, for instance, is a plant and flower that's known all over the world as a symbol of love. And it's a perfect symbol for the opening up of the heart, the petals of the heart that are opening up. But it will only open up at the right timing. But it also has thorns. And the thorns, I see them as healthy boundaries that only prick when maybe we're mishandled. And it's showing that love is the ultimate protection. And it can sometimes be extremely difficult for the mind to understand that. But the heart knows, the soul knows, the being knows, and that's where in every moment that we choose love over fear, it strengthens that connection. It's almost like we have to bring these neural pathways back into alignment with the pathways of the heart and the electromagnetic field of the heart that's far, far stronger. The intelligence is far, far greater than that of the mind that our human conditioning and the society that we've grown up in, especially in the modern world, has put us in a state of putting the mind over the heart, the mind over the body. But actually, if we look at even how we've developed in the womb, we began, the heart actually developed before the brain. And so there's a far more natural pathway that's available there to access when we can soften in and to listen in to the heart's intelligence and to allowing the electromagnetic field of the heart to come back into resonance, into coherence, so that from there we can actually act in love and we can act with far greater clarity when that is in cohesion with the mind, and very much including the body as well in our action. And so I find deep practical is far more real than just speaking of these things. And so if there's something that you have a question of around this, then please do pop it in the chat, and I can come back to it later if you're watching this another time. And one aspect that I've been finding is not necessarily about what we're doing, whether it's a job or whether it's doing the dishes or whether it's sitting in meditation, whether it's preparing uh, uh, a cup of cacao. It's how we're tending to that is really the key. Our presence, our awareness, our love, and the tending to that brings so much more joy to ourselves, to the moment, and to those around us as well, when we can really, really drop in and drop down into that. And so there's a lot of purification that happens through that in the system and in the heart. And that's where I also see how the alchemy comes in as well. The burning off everything that has been operating on a different level. Everything that has thought that it knew something or had a preference of a like or a dislike of a certain activity. For instance, it's the inner alchemy. That's where the key really is to the outer alchemy. So the change within then creates the change outside as well. When we're connecting with the elements, for instance, we have a far greater connection with the elements when we actually connect with the elements within us as well as outside of us. So, for instance, I have this fire here, and it's lovely to sit by a fire and to tend to a fire and the warmth of that fire and that element outside. But what's actually far, far stronger and creates that connection with that element is when we connect with that fire within us, the fire in our heart, and the ability that we actually have to warm ourselves as well with the fire that's in our heart, that's in our blood, the internal warmth in our digestion as well. There's many, many traditions that follow many practices, and some of which I will share in the Cacao Alchemy Practitioner level as well. It's about that, creating that connection with the elements within us. And these are just some of the ingredients that help us towards that inner alchemy. The other aspect as well is, like in the meditation, we were bringing love into the belly. And into the belly, we carry a lot of unprocessed emotions. And also, we have our gut brain in there as well. It's running a lot more of the show than this one. and there again, we can drop in and to actually hold lovingly, like we would with a child, whatever is arising in there, whatever emotions are arising. And it can become a practice with burning that off, and by not actually going into the stories, but actually, because the stories in the mind are propelled by the unprocessed emotions in the gut. And also there's a whole connection with the nervous system going on there as well, of course. And so when we drop out of paying attention to the stories and giving that our power, essentially, then we come into that love and that presence and that awareness with just everything as it is, and it's not always comfortable, but it actually creates a space for so much more love, for so much more joy to enter into our system, to enter into our body, to enter into our being, when we actually make the space for that. And it's a very, very opposite direction that we're being conditioned into in the modern world. Again, like this mind over and what is acceptable and what's not acceptable. And there's deep, deep patterns running in our systems that we've picked up from the first 6 years of our lives, particularly from our caregivers. And so we spend a lot of time in our adult life unraveling that. And I have found that plants are a really great catalyst for helping us, whether it's a physical condition that's showing itself up as a result of emotional wounding, which quite often is the case the vast majority of the time. We can find in nature the medicines that we need, whether it's on a physical level or emotional level or both. And that's one of the aspects that Mama Cacao brings in, is that she actually helps us to access the gut. She works through the gut, she works through the liver in particular, detoxifying, and into the gut, and helps us to bring that love and the warmth and the fire of the heart that she activates, especially with the bliss chemicals and many chemicals that she brings in the brain as well, that help to regulate the nervous system and help to elevate our mood, if you will, as well, and access that universal love that I was mentioning before, that then embraces everything, embraces all our human hearts, all our human parts, all the messiness, as well as all the silliness, like absolutely all aspects of it. And that's right down from, like I say, the deepest grief or shame or anger, right through to everything in between, and to joy. And it's not a way of trying to access higher states of bliss and love as a way out. It actually is a way in. Actually is a way in to actually come in and incarnate in these bodies. And that's why I feel very passionate about IxCacao in particular, and give gratitude as well to the custodians of that medicine and the lands in which that medicine comes from, that they have carried this for the millennia. And I particularly have a resonance with the Mayan tradition. There seems to be a strong resonance between the Celtic traditions and the Mayan traditions, which I don't have so much time to go into just now, but there's a lot of weaving happening there, and I do not for one moment try to say that I know of the Mayan traditions, but through my meeting on that land, and through my meeting with some of the Mayan peoples, as well as a direct connection with cacao, and my very direct connection with my own roots, more and more and more is unfolding with that. But ultimately, with all traditions, the ancient traditions, it's coming back to Mother Earth, it's coming back to nature, it's coming back to the elements, and basically create the power of creation. But the remembering that is all within us. And that's where I really feel the key is to this alchemy that we can come into when we bring this love back into ourselves, and bring this remembering of our roots also, and our connection to the earth. So she's called IxCacao, and the Mayans, Ish comes before everything. Ish is mother, Ish is jaguar. Ish is what is honored before all else. And that we know in these times that that's what is being called for, and the tables are turning. That Mother Earth is speaking up more and more and more through more and more vessels and more people. And that's going to increase. And so we can choose to stand in love with her, or we can choose to become distracted in the Maya and the many distractions that come with modern living, with technology, with I'm just going to say utter nonsense as well. What comes to me is in the getting real, is getting your hands back into the soil, coming back into connection with nature when we're actually going for a walk in nature, that we're actually in nature within ourselves, and can really take that time with every step, walking in love, and with hearing what's around us, seeing what's around us, seeing the beauty that's around us and that's reflected within us as well. That's really, it's actually so incredibly simple that it's often so overlooked. And how many times may we be walking somewhere and not even notice that there's, a bird singing in the tree right beside us, because we're lost in thought. And it's not to judge that by any means, but it's actually to just bring it back into awareness. And when we find ourselves wandering off somewhere, it's just the invitation to just come straight back. And whenever we can come straight back in that way, we can come into communion with not only ourselves, but that which is around us. And that can include somebody that you're connecting with as well, because they're part of nature too. And so, yeah, that's really sharing that from what really brings that alive in you. And that's what I would love to share more of here in the Cacao Practitioner Immersion, I like to call it, rather than a training or a course, because it's really much deeper than that. And yes, practices are shared and so on, but it's really about coming into communion with IxCacao, and coming into communion with nature, coming into communion with ourselves. And it's something that feels like I was going to say a powerful elixir for these times, and these times where the noise, the distraction is being ramped up. Is this invitation to come back into ourselves, to come back into ritual, to come back into ceremony, to come back into movement, to meditation, into dance, into what a sound, whichever ways we find that we can access that direct connection. I call it source, you might call it universe, you might call it God or goddess, whatever word you want to insert there. As I feel it, the cacao is cacao. It's a beautiful bridge to bring us back into that in a very, very simple yet very, very profound way. And some of the ways that I share with cacao is also, once we have that relationship set with her and we're getting to know her, is also introducing her with other medicines that work very, very well, very synergistically with her. So this is part of the cacao alchemy. So for instance, it's no surprise of why chocolate and rose come together so often when they both love medicine. Whenever you combine them together, they synergize very beautifully and bring much more of that softness and that opening up of the heart together, as well as, I would say, because cacao is a tree medicine. So tree medicines are a lot more strong, a lot more powerful than plants and flowers. There's actually, I do have hierarchies. In nature, there are hierarchies in that way. So there's much more, I would say, oomph to cacao than there is to rose. It's much more subtle. It's a flower, It's more delicate. It's you get the flower essences, and so they tend to share in a more subtle way. It may be in a way that maybe some people aren't just quite as attuned to just yet in that more subtle level. But whenever they meet rose with the cacao, that is alchemizing, synergizing with the rose, then they actually are able to meet the rose um, in a much in a much more let's say palatable way. Don't know quite the word I'm looking for, but it's people tend to find that they connect much quicker with the rose at a much deeper level when they have that foundation with cacao to open up, like I say, as that bridge. So there's some medicines, plants, trees that act like that. Like tobacco is one medicine that's very strong medicine, of course, but tobacco is a bridge, as a communicator with other plants. For instance, so they're like a bridge into the plant world. And the Mama Cacao, IxCacao is her own, her own medicine, strong enough, perfect on her own. And actually, traditionally, she would just be taken completely on her own, no spices, no sugars, nothing, just straight. And that bitterness that brings that sweetness within us. And also, she works very nicely with fungi as well. And the fungi are very interesting, and I could go off on a whole tangent about fungi, but I'll speak of one in particular. The key with the fungi, I feel, with the synergy with cacao as a tree medicine, is that she's opening us up more in the heart and more into the body, as well as the clarity of the mind. But with the fungi, is that they're in the forests and they are the mycelium network. They're like basically the whole fiber net Wi-Fi connection on this planet that actually help the connection and communication between the trees, as well as um, across. Basically, it's a network that is throughout this entire planet in the soil, which is actually very similar to the fascial network that we have. So that's the fibrous tissue that's just under the skin that actually gives us far more communication and awareness of what's within and around us than our nervous system does. It works in a very similar way to the mycelium network in the earth. I could go on, this earth and this planet and these bodies, endless, absolutely endless. What we can learn here as consciousness meeting the consciousness through that. And so one that I share in the Cacao Alchemy is lion's mane in particular, because again it works very well for gut health, with the nervous system, and as well as particularly in the clarity of the mind. So it's been said that there's many Buddhist monks that would have worked with lion's mane tea to help them to deepen their wisdom, to deepen their clarity in meditation. So those that may struggle a little bit with focus and meditation can often find a lot more focus with lion's mane. And then, like I say, alchemized with cacao, they work very, very well. They work very well together. And it's always very interesting to find as well that every single person connects with plants in their own unique way. And the plants have a particular teaching for each individual as well. So yes, we can say that certain plants or fungi have certain properties. Absolutely. That's very interesting. But what's more interesting is how they're working with an individual on the level that they really need at that particular time. And that's an intelligence that goes far beyond what we can understand with our human mind. And another plant that I like to work with is mugwort. She's one of my favorite herbs as well. What she works with is a lot to do with opening up our psychic field, but also helping us to work through those shadow aspects of ourselves, so working through in the womb or the hara space, and helping us to, yeah, I'd say just unravel anything that's been in the way, that's been creating distortion in our field. She really does push that out of the way. She's like this big mama bear. Pushes a lot out of our field that is creating distraction or distortion. And again, very powerful with cacao. She is mildly psychoactive, but with the dosages and things that I share, it's very, very safe. Obviously, with certain plants, there are contraindications, and I always share the contraindications with cacao, with mugwort, with others, with those that I'm working with. But in the majority, it's very, very safe. But again, no matter what plant it is that we're working with, coming in from a space of respect, of honouring, of reciprocity, and the reciprocity is really, really the key here. Is a coming in of not knowing, but really coming into a sense of gratitude and humility to receive what these medicines have to teach us. And then it's not an instant thing, it's something that takes time. Just like developing any friendship takes time to develop. And that's why it's so important to take a longer journey with plants. And it's often, in many traditions, often, and I would certainly recommend it from experience as well. It's ideal to have a guide, a human guide as well, that has that relationship established already with that plant, because they already carry a lot of the transmissions of that plant, as well as safe ways of working with, and are very aware of what can come up in terms of how plants interact with us is very different. And they interact with us a lot through the dream world as well, because that's a place where we work through a lot of our unconscious. Mugwort's another one that works particularly with the dreams as well. And so I find along the way I've been very, very grateful, and I've had some human teachers to ask questions of, go, what is going on here? Both the amazing and the more uncomfortable as well. And in particular, I would say in these times where it's very easy just to buy a herb or to buy cacao and to make it yourself. But we need to come into a space of right relation, of really, like I say, coming in and asking for permission. And why as well. Why is it that we wish to connect with that plant, rather than just simply taking from the earth like we have been doing for a long time as humanity, but actually coming in and listening and allowing. And when we come in from that place, like I say, coming back, right back to that place of fostering that love, cultivating that love within ourselves, the more that we want to share that love outside of us as well. And the more that we're open on that heart level, the more that we're open to communicate with plants, with nature. And so some of you may already have this experience where plants just start talking. They just start popping up everywhere. And they're like, hey, I want to be your pal. Come on now. That quite often will be that if you look that plant up, it has properties of healing that you need right now. And so if that does happen, then going to it and thanking it very much for the offering, and offer something in return, whether it's a prayer or a song or some herbs, tobacco or mugwort, or even some cacao, something going back into the earth to say thank you for what you're receiving. And that's just always coming in a two-way street all the time. The more that we access that reciprocity, the much more we will actually receive from those plants as well, because they're just celebrating that togetherness. And it's also in beautiful connection with the land when it's local plants to you as well. It really is a beautiful way of connecting with the land in which you're actually living. And there's not so much maybe now, but we're coming soon into the springtime, and so things will start popping up out of the ground, like dandelions, amazing flower and herb to work with as well. And there could be an endless string that I could say will work well with cacao, but for the practitioner level training, just to keep it as succinct as I can, is to just begin with for 3 months together, and not pile too many plants in, because the key really is to listen and honor that connection with that plant, and then allow space for that to integrate and allow the next to come. And they'll start to tell you in their own timing as well, in your own timing, rather than pile a whole load together like we've often done in school, and too much information in at once. It's too much for the system to truly integrate. But hopefully at some point I'll be sharing more dietas with more Celtic plants in the future, as well as perhaps some dietas with cacao as well, and maybe cacao and another plant. And we'll see how 2023 goes. I'm always listening with my ear to the ground to what's needed, rather than just coming with what feels right at the time. It actually is more a deep listening that it comes from here, and that deep love, and that's why I don't share this too often as well, because it's very dear to my heart, and I don't want to use the word labor, but it is a labor of love in the birthing process. It's always a birthing process. I'm just saying there. Yeah, exactly, Joe. I'm just saying that a particular plant is just showing up everywhere, and then when you take notice, it's like, oh yes, that's one. That's what I need. It's like, yes, plants really do have the answer, have the medicines that we need, and that's going to become so much more real over the coming months and years to come, that we're going to be really coming back to those basics. That's what Mother Nature is calling us to. What is available in our back garden and our local forest? There is so much richness and so much abundance there. And that's what Mama Cacao also brings us into, because she is a medicine of love and abundance and deep connection with the earth. And so she can really help us to cultivate that, to open ourselves up more to that connection. And so it becomes a lot more simple. I just keep saying that. It comes into the simplicity of enjoying the moment, of enjoying life, and of enjoying the beauty when a particular flower just keeps showing up. And that we actually take notice. That's a real key. It's really dropping in to be quiet enough to take notice. So yes, if there's any other questions that come, feel free to drop them in the chat box. I'm not on the computer so much, but I will do my best to check in. It's been really lovely to share with you that are here live. Thank you. I wish I could see your faces as well. but I hope to share more of these lives in the future as we go along, and pop my head out a little bit more. And if there's anything that you would like me to explore a little bit more with you, then I'm also very, very open to that. So thank you, and take care, and much, much love.